After months of bad weather on our Bordeaux renovation, the sun had finally started to show its face. The garden was beginning to bloom. The good weather was just the motivation we needed to start tackling the task we'd been dreading. Welcome back to Restoring Les Chartreuses. We're Romy and Hugo, and together with our cat Phoebe, we've been slowly bringing this old townhouse back to life in the southwest of France. Last time, we got ahead of the change in the season and built a tiny greenhouse from old windows we've been salvaging from the house. A welcome escape from the geometry hell of preparing our attic for re-insulation. But now, after much delay, we're finally ready to face the dusty nightmare, putting in the wood fibre insulation in the attic. Well, it is at long last time to start insulating the upstairs. We have taken quite a while to get to this point, but we are finally here. Unfortunately, it's good weather, so at least we have that. But you might be wondering what the hell this is that I have in front of me. This is like a little jig or a gaberie that I made in order to cut some of the wood insulation that we're going to put up in instead. And so to give you a quick recap about what we're going to be doing is we're taking some basically wood fibre insulation, flexible wood fibre insulation. We're going to put it in between the bats upstairs and then another cross section over that as well. And the reason I built this is that for those of you guys who remember watching the video where we insulated the cave, it's the same insulation that we're going to put in the upstairs, and it was an absolute nightmare to cut. I didn't realize how tricky it would be to cut, and just getting the kind of dimensions was just really difficult. So I built this to kind of help with that and make all of these repeatable cuts that we have to do between the bats a little bit easier. The idea is that we have this kind of platform here that has this clamp, if you will. So we slide in the insulation onto it and then clamp it down here, and it's got a groove where I can cut along using a saw to basically make that process a lot easier and a lot more repeatable. And then on the opposite side, I have some quick measurements here that I can move a straight edge along, so basically can do very quick repeatable cuts and keep a very clean edge when I cut the insulation, because when I was doing the insulation cutting before, it was just going all over the shop. So I spent a little bit of time doing this, maybe a bit too much time than I should have, but I think it's going to pay dividends in the long run. And well, I tested it this morning and it works really great. So I'm going to cut all the insulation out here and then take it upstairs and put it in so that we reduce the dust that's inside that space upstairs. It's also a nice day, get some a little bit of sun, and it's a little bit nicer for you guys as well, seeing just the outside rather than the horrible upstairs that it is currently. So over the next couple of days, we're going to try and do one half of the side of the attic. But that being said, we probably won't get that far. So we'll see how far we get, because the putting in the supports was not super quick. So maybe putting in insulation is not going to be super quick, but we will see. All right, let's get to it then. Okay, you got it?
After a day like today, spent insulating the attic, I'm covered in dust and I feel disgusting, which is a perfect moment to introduce today's sponsor because the last thing I want right now is more harsh stuff on my skin. This video is sponsored by Well because 3 of their products have completely taken over our bathroom. Their deodorant is 98% natural ingredient, no parabens, no harsh chemicals, and completely aluminium free. We also really like their body wash, which has organic aloe vera and prebiotics in it, so it's generally good for your skin, not just for washing it. And my little favorite is their lip balm, which is packed with vitamin E and A. But the thing I love the most are the cute little cases made of aluminium and built to last forever, and actually every refill saves 30 grams of plastic. Thanks to World, over 600 tons of plastic have been kept out of landfill so far, plus a tree is planted for every order, and as a gardener, you know that I absolutely love that. And there's zero commitment, you can cancel, pause, switch scents anytime, no questions asked. It's not one of the subscriptions that trap you, refills just land in your letterbox when you need them, and you're fully in control. So scan the QR code that's on the screen to use our discount code RESTORING2026 for 20% off your first order. The link is also in the description. Thanks again to World for sponsoring this video and supporting creators like us.
So we did make some really good progress on the attic yesterday, insulating in between the bats. We actually managed to get the full side of the attic insulated. And just a quick recap about what we're going to be doing with insulation is we're first insulating in between the bats, and then we're going to put a secondary layer of wood insulation over the top of them. So what I'm going to try and do this morning is put a second layer of insulation over the top in some of the areas, just to make sure that everything looks and works okay before I move on to the other areas. I had a little bit of a worry last night, a little bit of a nightmare that I might have actually put in some of the stuff a bit wrong. So I just want to test out those theories before I move on to anything else. So back into the dust protection outfit, which is extremely flattering to say the least. So after 2 days of stuffing wood fibre insulation into every corner of that attic, we were absolutely done. Fibre in our hair, fibre in our lungs, fibre in places fibre had no business being. We needed a morning off. And luckily for us, one of those perfect late winter Saturdays had arrived. So we washed the dust off, hopped on the tram and headed across town to our favourite corner of Bordeaux, the Chartrons district. Cobblestone alleyways, tall shuttered houses, iron balconies. This is one of the oldest neighbourhoods in the city. The name goes back to the 14th century when Carthusian monks first settled here. By the 17th century, wealthy merchants from England, Ireland and Holland had made Chartrons their base, running barrels of clary down the quay alongside the Garonne. Today the barrel merchants are gone, but in their place you'll find antique dealers, independent boutiques, and most importantly for us, some truly exceptional bakeries. Our favourite street is Rue Notre Dame, this narrow, romantic little road through the heart district. And it was here we made our first stop, Boulangerie Notre Dame. There's always a queue out the door here in the morning, a line of Bordelais waiting to get their fresh baguette and something sweet. We picked up a couple of classics. First, the humble chocolatine. Now you might know this as a pain au chocolat, but a word of warning, do not call it that here. The north of France says pain au chocolat, the south says chocolatine. And it is, without exaggeration, one of the greatest rivalries of French culture. So if you're visiting Bordeaux and you walk into a Boulangerie, do yourself a favour and ask for a chocolatine, or better yet, a choco. Ask for a pain au chocolat and you might just get a baguette with a bar of chocolate stuffed in it. From there we made our way to somewhere truly special, Boulangerie au Pétrin Mousserguet. This is one of the oldest bakeries in Bordeaux, dating back to 1765. Bare stone walls, a long vaulted room, and at the far end, still in daily use, the old 18th century wood-fired oven. This bakery specialises in pain gascon, a distinctive twisted loaf with a thick, dark crust. Before the war, bread was bought only once a fortnight here, so Gascon bakers developed a heavy crusted loaf baked slowly for up to 90 minutes in a falling heat to lock in moisture and last for days. No preservatives, just flour, natural leaven, and time. We planned to save the bread for lunch. Very sensible. But a stroll through the Jardin Public with the smell of warm bread wafting through our bag was too much. We'd also cheekily bought another croissant. So we found a bench in the winter sun and wolfed down the lot.
It's what?
Very buttery.
In a good way?
Maybe a bit too much, but... We finished our walk in the centre with one essential stop to Cassonade for Bordeaux's most iconic pastry, the cannelés. A small fluted cylinder, dark and crunchy on the outside, soft and custardy within, perfumed with vanilla and a whisper of rum. Legend has it that the nuns at the local convent collected leftover eggs from winemakers after the whites were used to clarify the wine, and then combined them with vanilla and rum and sugar arriving on the ships from the Caribbean. The cannelé has been part of the city for centuries and truly embodies the history of Bordeaux. You can find cannelés all over Bordeaux, but for me, Cassonade is the best. We stood outside, cannelé in hand, winter sun dripping. It had been the perfect morning. A love letter to the city, written in flour, butter and sugar. And then, of course, reality crept back in. There was still an attic full of wood fibre waiting for us at home. But that's alright, we'd eaten well, and the insulation, well, it'll get there eventually.
Je pense qu'elle va revenir, hein. Tu crois? Ouais, j'y crois.
So the greenhouse is finally done. I'm super happy with it. The first seedlings already in there and I need to sow a lot more. It's really cool because in the house we really don't have enough natural light to grow seedlings, and last year they ended up being super laggy and I had to take a risk and basically plant them outside way too early. So this is really cool that this year I'm able to go crazy and sow all the seeds, even though I may not have enough space in the garden to plant them, but this is a problem for another time. Thank you so much to everyone who commented on the previous video for the color of the greenhouse. As you can see, I repainted. I think the color that came up the most in the comment was a light green. And so the reason I didn't go for that is because I'm going to be painting this gate light green. So we're going to do this very soon. I'm just waiting for a few days of good weather. The second color that came up the most in the comments was to paint it blue, like our front door. And the reason I'm not doing that is because in the potting area just right here, I'm going to be replacing the door, and that door is going to be blue to match the front door. So again, I didn't want to have two blue elements so close to each other. I chose this color. This is London Stone by Farrow & Ball. I really like it because I think it will look really good against the green. I've tested it against the blue as well. I do think it goes really well with that. It has this really natural color, which I think also looks good with plants in it. And more importantly, I do think it will look good against that wall, which I need to re-render. And again, I'm waiting for a good 10 days of good weather to do that. So thank you so much for your advice. I think it's about trusting the process because we've got lots of different elements that need to go in before we have a final vision. But I think once we have a gate, the new door, the wall is redone, we've got a potting table next to it, lots of plants in it and lots of plants in the beds as well. I think this will look really nice and I'm happy with it. So thank you so much for all the support and I can't wait to show you how everything looks like when it all comes together.